Today, we are going to attempt to answer a few pressing questions around badonkadonking. No, not that type of badonkadonking, even though that type is technically a form of it and could actually fit quite... You know what? Forget I brought it up. The questions we will be exploring are the following. Does cancer hate exercise? If so, why exactly? And how much exercise do we actually need to significantly reduce our risk of this ever-growing, vibe-killing condition? All I gotta say is it may be less than you think. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run LiftandBalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. Today, we are once again exploring the magical potion, which is exercise. Moving our body in an intentional and methodical way, or just moving it as a byproduct of life. You know, kind of like when you bring all of mom's groceries inside in one trip with half a shoe on one foot and a stiletto on the other. Whatever your footwear of choice. It has been no secret that exercise drives both acute and long-term biochemical and physiological changes within. Changes which ultimately improve our health for the better. And one of the more interesting topics in this field has been its influence on the risk and prevalence of one of the top diseases plaguing us intelligent walking apes today: cancer. In fact, we've covered this topic in several videos already, highlighting how the byproducts of exercise can suppress certain tumor-type growth in its tracks. However, as we know, the real goal is to never get in an active battle. It's to deploy preventative measures early and often and avoid the disease and dysfunction in the first place. And that is best achieved by deploying a holistic strategy built around the foundational components of health and longevity: real, whole, nourishing food, high quality circadian aligned sleep, nature, and of course, moving that ass. So, as you already know, we will be focusing on that last one today. First, reviewing this new large-scale cohort study which just hit the scientific streets, suggesting a possible minimum effective dose for cancer deterrence. Then, exploring why or what biological mechanisms may be driving these outcomes. And finally, practical ways to add strategic movement to your day, including some of my own favorite tactics. So, without further ado, let's break a sweat with this new data. In this 2023 study, researchers out of the University of Sydney sought to see if an association exists between vigorous intermittent lifestyle activity and cancer incidence in older, non-active adults. To do this, they turned to the UK Biobank and a specific cohort of 22,000 non-exercising adults, analyzing data from activity trackers participants wore, clinical checkups, as well as self-reporting throughout different points in this 7-year study. Which brings us to our first call out. This was obviously not the gold standard randomized controlled trial. Thus, this study design is not able to establish a causal link. That being said, identifying a causal relationship was not the main objective of this study. Uncovering an association was, which is totally fine. It's just important to make this delineation clear and concise up front. Now, for the study, vigorous intermittent lifestyle activity was defined as short bouts of vigorous intensity physical activity, 6 METs and above, lasting 2+ minutes. METs standing for metabolic equivalent units, which are essentially measures of energy expenditure as a byproduct of physical activity. 1 MET is the amount of energy that you expend at rest, while activities with a MET value of 2 or more are considered moderate intensity activities, and activities with a MET value of 6 or more are considered vigorous intensity activities. For example, sitting quietly is 1 MET, brisk walking is 4 METs, biking 6 METs, running 8 METs, and sex checking in at 3 METs. But I think that last one kinda depends. Anyway, participants were followed for 7 years and their overall incidence of cancer were tracked. This also included 13 cancers associated with physical activity, or inactivity, including liver, lung, kidney, gastric, colon, head and neck, bladder, and breast, to name a few. So, with that, what'd they find? Well, from the 20,000 plus participants, over 2,300 new cancer events were identified, 1,000 of which being those cancers related to physical activity. Okay, that is unfortunately high. What about the vigorous intermittent lifestyle activity effects? Interestingly, 3.5 minutes of this vigorous activity was associated with up to an 18% reduction in cancer incidence compared to those who were not vigorously exercising. Okay. And get this, 4.5 minutes or more of this daily vigorous activity was associated with up to a 32% reduction in physical activity-related cancer incidence. Damn. All under 5 minutes. Overall, the steepest gain in cancer reduction was seen in individuals who did small amounts of vigorous activity compared to individuals who did none. However, the benefits seem to continue with higher daily levels, particularly for physical activity-related cancers, suggesting that movement may really be medicine. Now, all of this is really interesting, but it's important to remember, this was just an association, not a link of causation. So more research is always warranted. That being said, this is nonetheless intriguing, as it challenges the norm of spending hours each week in the gym or running the streets, suggesting a more efficient route to reaping at least some of the benefits of badonkadonking. But why is this? What mechanisms could be driving this under the covers? Great question. Let's explore. First, we must preface this section with what actually happens during a bout of exercise. And it is really quite amazing. When we embark on some good old badonkadonking, various tissues, organs, and glands release a flurry of bioactive molecules, including proteins, hormones, peptides, metabolites, neurotransmitters, and nucleic acids, inducing a vast change in our biochemistry, genetic expression, and cellular function. And it is this complex laundry list of downstream pathways which are thought to be at the root of movement's health and longevity modulating powers, including its cancer fighting powers, as there is growing epidemiological literature suggesting that physical activity protects against certain cancers in a significant way, cultivating an internal environment which makes it harder for cancerous and precancerous cells to proliferate, and for that matter, even survive. What are some of these potential pathways? Well, first, there is a flurry of inflammatory cytokines which are secreted during and immediately after a bout of movement, being followed by an even stronger flurry of anti-inflammatory activity, likely causing any weak, damaged, or mutated cells to trigger their recycling or programmed cell death pathways. Next, there's the production of certain proteins and metabolites such as heat shock proteins. These are complex molecules which help protect the cell from damage, triggering repair pathways which keep the cell healthy and operating efficiently. Also, during badonkadonking, there is an uptick in nitric oxide, a compound which has been shown to have several anti-cancer properties, including regulating blood vessel function, reducing stress, and improving immune activity. Oh, and speaking of immune function, vigorous exercise has been shown to improve it by increasing the activity and number of white blood cells. Then, of course, we have exercise's impact on the most primal piece of our biology, cellular respiration, and specifically where all of our energy is synthesized, the mitochondria. Exercise has been shown to be one of the best interventions for improving mitochondria function, efficiency, and flexibility, reducing the probability of free radical leak, damage to the genome, and cancerous mutations to occur. Finally, we cannot forget that exercise helps us sleep better, which comes with its own cellular and disease-fighting magic. So much so, we have a whole playlist dedicated to it. Now, these are just a few of the potential mechanisms at play. I say this because reality is, we are likely ignorant to the majority of the cellular magic that is actually going on. The important takeaway here is that the potential upside that badonkadonking brings to the health and longevity table may be second to none in its cancer-fighting prowess, making it a good activity to partake in if you have extending your vitality over time in mind. So with that, let's talk about some ways that you can do it more without dedicating your life to it. No disrespect, Arnold. The truly interesting aspect of today's powwow, at least for me, was the surprising upside that 3 to 5 minutes of vigorous activity a day could bring to the table. This could be running, biking, swinging kettlebells, doing burpees, or even interpretive dancing. Whatever gets the heart pumping and the body moving into that upper range. That being said, just going all out after months or years of not doing strenuous exercise is not an ideal strategy either. In fact, it opens up the risk and probability of totally different issues to arise. So just like any other health intervention, baseline your current state, take it slow, and make it sustainable. If you haven't moved from an exercise standpoint in a long time, start off with something as simple as a walk. Yeah, it doesn't classify as vigorous, but it is an awesome and safe way to start figuratively and literally moving in the right direction. A simple technique that I've used in the past to start something new is something called habit stacking. This is where you insert a habit that you want to begin either before or after something that you already do on the daily. For example, inserting a 5-minute bout of movement after you make your morning coffee, or on the tail end of a meal such as lunch or dinner. This makes sticking to a new desired habit more sustainable because you're stacking it before or after something that you already do. Structure, which already exists. I personally like to get my movement in first thing in the morning because it biochemically and physiologically puts my body in a better position to have a day. A great 5-minute morning ritual could be something along the lines of doing some jumping jacks or body weight work outside in some ambient sun while touching some earth. And despite first thought, this does so much on so many fronts in altering your biological machinery to operate more efficiently and thus make you think, feel, and perform better for the day. I also like to leverage a timer for many of my workouts, following a Tabata or every minute on the minute structure. And here's why. By starting a new movement every minute or 2 minutes, you keep the intensity up and can literally make any compilation of movements significantly more difficult. For example, let's take the 3 movements of bodyweight squats, push-ups, and lunges, following the structure of 10 bodyweight squats for minute 1, 10 push-ups during minute 2, and 10 lunges during minute 3, repeating for 3 rounds, switching movements every minute on the minute. You've built a 10-minute workout using 3 simple movements that likely gets you in the 6 met and above range, checking the vigorous activity box for the day. Most people underestimate the power of 10 to 15 strategic minutes a day. And if you're looking to get more technical and really spend some time on this exercise thing, aiming for 2 to 4 hours of Zone 2 training per week with several short and vigorous sessions is a great goal to strive for. Zone 2 is an activity that gets you working around 60 to 70% max heart rate, measured in beats per minute. A good non-technical way to measure this is working just hard enough where it is just a little too hard to hold a fluent conversation, while the vigorous activity part speaks for itself, because if you're able to have any conversation during it, you're not working hard enough. As you could probably tell by now, there are many different approaches to get your daily movement in, so find one that works for you. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comments and I will do my best to answer all of them. Remember, we're all starting at a different point. And at the end of the day, persistence and progress is much more important than perfection. So deploy the art of doing and put something in motion. And if that motion happens to be the naughty type of badonkadonking, then try to make it a 6 on the Met scale instead of a 3. And over 4 minutes. Just saying.